Ash Wednesday, I commented that our faith contains so many contradictions. One God, three persons, virgin, mother, die to live. Well, the first reading today is one of the great contradictions. I was teaching in Mary Immaculate for a number of years, and the little kids were making little arks. You could go to Toys R Us and you could buy these arks with animal heads sticking out. It was all great fun. I remember outside St. Louis, just this side of St. Louis in St. Charles, there was an ark. There was also a restaurant. Good times, good eats. That's what that was all about. Except then God killed everybody and everything. And I'm not sure, how I'm supposed to understand that. Yes, there are things in there that the Israelites put into it. But I want to tell you of a new insight. I got into this a while back. To understand this, I first had to remember that the story of the flood long preceded the story of the flood in the scriptures of Israel. It was a Mesopotamian myth that had been going on for probably hundreds of years before the Israelites took it into their scriptures. So that said, the question then should be asked, and I hadn't asked this before, when did they put that into their scriptures and why? Well, it turns out that, as I've commented before, Israel was in a very terrible place. God took them to the land of milk and honey, plopped them down right in the middle of the biggest highway, in the world, and every nation in the world crossed there and beat up on poor old Israel. They were taken into slavery by the Egyptians, by the Babylonians. They were constantly under fire. This story came to be around the time of the Babylonian exile, when everything was hopeless and helpless. There was nothing they could grab a hold of. And it's in this despair that they remembered the story that they had heard about the flood. And they took it into their scriptures. And they added whatever they needed to put in there as of talking already about the God that they knew. And this is how they did it. Completely different than the way we normally write a story. Today's stories they always begin with a beginning, a middle, and an end. They start with setting the character, a development, and a conclusion. But in writings of those times, oftentimes, they would tell a story completely differently. They would start at each end, at the beginning and at the end, and they would move to the middle. And the experts in taking apart the story of Noah arrived at this one verse, right in the middle of this story, the tipping point, the focal point. And God remembered Noah. And that was what they remembered. God remembered Noah, and God will remember us. And so they put this into their scriptures then as a sign of hope. Though, as I said, at times it looks so hopeless and helpless. And then they added the whole idea of a new covenant into it, That's a very important thing to do. But the thing I want you to remember from now on when you hear about the story of Noah, God remembered Noah, and he will remember you. Now, as I thought about this, it came to me that perhaps this is the story of our lives. Think about it this way. We have creation, the beginning, and we have a new beginning at the end of creation, a new creation, death, the end of the world. And smack in the middle of that is one thing, the Paschal mystery. The mystery we proclaim every Sunday, the mystery of faith. Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. This Paschal mystery, those 3 days of dying and rising, that is the pivot, that is the focal point that gives meaning to our lives. Because God did indeed remember us. Now, if you want to make it a little bit more personal, you can just take it this way. I was born a new creation. I die a new creation. And what gives meaning to my life and to your individual lives is Christ has died for us so that he could rise for us, that he could bring us life eternal.